Hello, beautiful people of the internet. How are you doing today? My name is Jackie and welcome back to my YouTube channel. So today I have a book review for you all. I am going to be reviewing Last Night at the Hollywood Canteen by Sarah James. I was given an advanced reader copy of this book on NetGalley in exchange for an honest review, so thank you so much to both NetGalley and the publisher Sourcebooks Landmark. I think my camera just tilted. This book is scheduled to be published on November 7th, so definitely go check out a copy when it is released. All in all, I gave this book 4 stars. I did quite like it, and I would read another book from this author. So I think let's just get right to it. First, I'm going to read you a plot summary of this book, and then I will dive into some of my specific thoughts with no spoilers, of course. This book is a historical mystery that is set in Hollywood in the year 1943. It is pitched as being a World War II mystery in some reviews. However, I think it would be more accurate to describe this as an old Hollywood mystery. The war does not play much of a part. And to be completely honest with you, I think that's part of the reason why I enjoyed this book as much as I did, because I personally don't care for World War II era books. It's just not my favorite historical time period to read about. I would much rather read about the Georgians or the Victorians or medieval times. World War II is just not of particular interest to me, so I quite enjoyed this book, and I think part of the reason was because World War II had very little to do with the mystery plot. Annie Lawrence moves from New York City to Hollywood. Annie is a murder mystery playwright, but she has recently been offered a contract with the fictional film studio Pacific Pictures. Annie, who has just been through a horrible breakup, decides that she's going to go to Los Angeles, where she may be able to build her career and reconcile with her exes. I don't think it's a spoiler to say, because it's very early on in the book, that actually at the beginning of the book, Annie is involved in a polyamorous relationship with a pair of married actors who end up breaking up with her so that they can move to Hollywood. And I thought that was an interesting touch. I really don't know if I've ever read a book that depicted a polyamorous relationship, so that was a surprise, and I appreciated the author for including that. Upon her arrival in Los Angeles, Annie gets involved with the Hollywood Canteen, and this was actually a real place that I personally had never heard of before I picked up this book. So a lot of servicemen were being shipped off to fight in the war from Los Angeles, and so the Hollywood Canteen was created, I believe, by the famous actress Bette Davis to basically provide these servicemen with food and entertainment before they went off to fight in the war, potentially never coming home alive again. And all the different film studios would take their turns, having their stars come to the Hollywood Canteen to promote their films and send the servicemen off with some entertainment and goodwill. Annie ends up attending the Pacific Pictures night at the Hollywood Canteen, and that is how she meets Fiona Ferris and the so-called Ambassadors Club. At the very beginning of the book, Fiona actually writes a review for the play that Annie was in, so when Annie meets Fiona, she already knows who Fiona is. Fiona is a very well-respected critic, and she has a reputation for being, let's just say, acerbic in her reviews. She is known to be an extremely tough critic and is famous for how tough she is in her reviews. Annie quickly falls in with Fiona and the so-called Ambassadors Club, who call themselves that after the Ambassador Hotel, where they gather together to drink alcohol and commiserate about the directions of their careers. The Ambassadors Club was a very interesting group with a lot of diverse characters, and I did really enjoy reading about them. I would not describe Annie, Fiona, or any of the other main characters as being likable per se. They often engage in banter, and some of their quips could come across as very harsh. However, the group just has this repartee that these insults kind of bounce off them, and the author is really talented at writing dialogue. She writes very clever quips, so even though honestly, I would probably feel bad about myself if someone spoke to me like the way the members of the Ambassadors Club speak to each other. But because the dialogue is so well written and so clever, you kind of don't mind reading about the characters, even though personally, I don't know if they would be people I would want to hang out with in real life. As the plot blurb states, Fiona ends up dead in the kitchen of the Hollywood Canteen, seemingly having been poisoned, and Annie takes it upon herself to figure out who it was that murdered her old friend. And considering Fiona's harsh reputation, there are lots of people in Hollywood who have a potential motive to want to kill her. She has had very tough things to say about so many people in the industry, including other members of the club, like Annie herself. So the other members of the Ambassadors Club that we meet in this book include Jack, who is an alcoholic comedian who wants to be seen as a serious writer, June, who is a Chinese American actress, really struggling with the fact that she has been treated as a sex object in Hollywood when she wants to be known for her talent instead of her beauty. There is Victor, who is closely associated with Henry, a very famous composer. Victor is one of Henry's musicians, though Victor himself wants to be taken seriously as a composer and so far has not had any success with his composing career or with his love life. And finally, there's also Terry, who is a film producer who has had an unsuccessful love life of her own. She was once married, but her husband died. Every character in the group has their own career and their own aspirations, which for one reason or another, they have failed to achieve. I would say Terry was probably the member of the group that I connected with the least, but there were aspects of Jack, Victor, and June's characters that I did really like. I do think, again, the characters are maybe not people I would want to hang out with in real life. I don't think I would be able to hang with their group. I don't think I would be able to take it. But I think they were all well written, so they were interesting characters, even if they weren't the friendliest, should we say. And if I am going to be nitpicky, I am going to say I think it's a little unbelievable how quickly Annie attached herself to the group. It happened a little bit fast, but suspension of disbelief, I was definitely able to look past it. It's not like that impacted my enjoyment of the book in any significant way. What I enjoyed most about this book was its exploration of old Hollywood. You, the reader, get to visit a lot of the glamorous Hollywood locales that classic movie stars would have gone to. And back in this time period, film studios exerted a lot of control over the lives of their performers. This is something that really happened and that the book explores. Hollywood stars back in the day, they had to meet certain standards and portray a certain public persona, which didn't necessarily always match up with who they actually were. They had to stick to strict morality clauses, which said things like, no getting pregnant out of wedlock, no being queer. There were rumors about gay or bisexual stars who would be forced into arranged marriages with someone of the opposite sex to make them respectable in the public eye, since being queer was something that was so stigmatized in the past and is still to this day, though to a different extent. There were rumors that sometimes film stars would have fake PR relationships or even marriages to promote the studio, which is crazy to think about. Imagine if you were an actor in the 21st century and the studio had the power to force you into a marriage with your co-star when the two of you are not even an item. And this was the level of control that studios had over people's lives. This is something that the book explores in its subplots, and I found it really interesting to think about the pressure that would come with being in that situation. I would say that was the aspect of Last Night at the Hollywood Canteen I enjoyed the most. Again, this is a historical mystery, so let's talk about the actual mystery plotline itself, the mystery of who killed Fiona. I liked the mystery plotline fine. I think the ending made total sense, and I didn't leave the book with really any unanswered questions. I think like the author wrapped up the plot well. I think my biggest complaint about this book, however, was the ending didn't pack as much of a punch as I thought it would. When we find out who it was that killed Fiona, I thought it made perfect sense, but I wasn't surprised necessarily. I did have another theory that I came up with and I was pretty attached to, so I was a bit disappointed that that theory wasn't right. But when we found out who it was that killed Fiona, it was someone who I had suspected and considered one of my main suspects from a fairly early point in the book. And I wish that it could have just been a little more surprising. And I think there were other ways the author could have written the ending that would have made it more shocking or more of a betrayal. I also felt like the whodunit, the person or people who did it, I didn't feel like they were actually legitimately scary. I felt like they were a bit one-dimensional, and I think if it had been a different person who did it, then there could have been a greater sense of betrayal, of shock, of being like, oh my God, I didn't see that coming. So I do think everything made sense, everything was plotted well, but there wasn't that shock factor, that wow, that I think would have made this a 5-star book for me. I think if the resolution had been a little more surprising, then I could have given this a 5-star rating. All in all, I felt like it was a good resolution to the mystery, but not necessarily like, you know, God tier or like I never saw that coming levels. Like it made perfect sense, but it was something that I had considered earlier on in the book, so I was not surprised by who done it or what their motives were. Hopefully you understand what I'm trying to say here. I'm trying to explain how I felt without spoiling the resolution, obviously, and not giving away too many specifics. So I think that is everything I wanted to say about Last Night at the Hollywood Canteen by Sarah James. All in all, I did really enjoy this book, and I would love to read another historical mystery from this author. I quite enjoyed this, and while I did have some criticisms, I felt like it was a solid book all in all. Would encourage you to check this out if it sounds interesting to you. Once again, thank you so much to the publisher Sourcebooks Landmark and to NetGalley for giving me my arc of this book. I would love to hear from you in the comments. Usually when I review books from NetGalley, I film videos where I talk about 2 to 3 books at a time, and today I decided to film a standalone book review, which I don't normally do. So I want to know, do you like this standalone review better, or do you want me to go back to the old format where I review 2 or 3 books in one video? I would really love to hear your thoughts on that. Do sound off in the comment section, and if you're still here watching but you don't know what to comment, why don't you comment the shooting star emoji down below so that I know you're still here and you enjoyed? Thank you so much for watching this video. Make sure to give it a big thumbs up if you enjoyed, and subscribe to my channel if you want to see more from me. I post new videos every Wednesday and Sunday. My social media links are down below if you want to follow me on Tumblr, Instagram, or be my friend on Goodreads. Thank you so much for watching, and I hope you have an epic rest of your day. Bye, and I'll see you in the next video.